Yeah, this is one of the best hard modes I've actually ever played. As somebody who wasn't even that big a fan of the original game, it just takes it and actually validates the existence of so many of these mechanics. I used the garden finally. I used a lot of the plants I never used. It actually made it all that extra leftover content that so many games have because they're too easy or something actually became relevant. So if I was to like rank the significance of each plant, it's like the pea shooter is okay. Right, that's like a 3-star standard, what you expect. But what were the ones that really stood out in this run? The Gloom Shroom I already knew was good, so I'm not going to give that too much special credit. The ice went from like a 2 or 3-star in my mind to a 6-star because it's just so... I didn't realize how important that would be to just slow down their attacking, give you time for cooldowns. The Doom Shroom actually goes from like a 5 to a 4 because even as good as it is, when they come back to back like that so much, it starts to be less impactful. The Repeater is okay. The spikes I never even got a chance to use, or he did give it to me once, but I just didn't use it. I was trying to make it so that if he gives me one, like throughout the whole playthrough, he would give me at least one, each plant once. So that level would be a chance for that to shine, and sort of, it'd be not only my first time using it, but my first time using it in a very impactful way. The Torchwood, somebody was a big fan of. I forget his username, but he kept saying, use the Torchwood, use the Torchwood. But in this mode, it's the Ice Wood because it makes your shots become the ice shots instead of the fire ones, where you have to put like 2 in a row. What is the most useless plant? It's got to be the Marigold. It gives you money, but besides that, probably the Garlic. I can see maybe a use for it, but this one's kind of stupid too, because there's normally not stuff in water that you have to sink down. This I always make fun of, but it's actually not that bad. It does the same amount of damage as the what do you call it? As like the pea shooter, which I guess I didn't even realize that before. The Plantern is situationally okay, just if it's nighttime, Marigold MVP. Get more money like your Zen Garden that you don't even need. The Tall Nut is amazing. Obviously, that's always been a 5-star because not only is it so tanky, but it is slightly tougher than this. I always felt like these had the same defensive value, but just that this kills stuff at the end. When it dies, it becomes a squash and hits them for a pretty meaningful amount of damage. These shrooms are aquatic plants. These ones are pretty stupid too, but they're free, so I guess you can't complain. The Cactus went up big. The Cactus I would meme on and say, why the fuck would anybody ever want this, aside from dealing with the balloon ones? But then you realize it has piercing damage. It doesn't even say that on here, like, shoot spikes, but it pierces through. So every other shot, even like the Gatling Pea, I think I calculated does less damage than the Cactus in this mode, because it shoots 4 shots, but it'll only hit the guy in front. Whereas the Cactus is going to hit everything vertically in that whole row. So it doesn't matter about the damage value, it's just hitting so many times. This is okay situationally. This I never really got good use out of it, but it's a repeater on the backside, which I never knew that. I thought it was just a base, they're both pea shooters, but it actually does double damage firing speed on the backside. The Star just gets goat status from me not really thinking too much of it either. The pumpkins are very good. I always knew that. The magnets are garbage in this mode because they don't work on the football guys. And one of the hardest enemy types is definitely the newspaper guy, because the rage mode is so much more punishing here. Because they not only have more health and do more damage, but they're immune to explosions, right? Like you can't... if you blow them up, their newspaper is explosion proof. I don't really understand how they thought of doing that, but it's definitely not like that originally, I don't think. Cabbage, it couldn't be. Cabbage Pult is very good, although it wasn't very good on 5.7 when I really needed it to be. This is kind of garbage, but if you use it as a base for that, it's kind of like the ice. You only really want one of them in a particular row. Coffee Bean is what it is. In fact, there's an interesting meta in this whole experience that I sort of came up with that I never thought about. The Doom Shroom and the ice are actually better in the day than they are at night, because when you plant them at night, you can only have one of them and it's automatically going to go off because you don't have to use the Coffee Bean. You can have like 10 Doom Shrooms in the back just waiting right, in reserve, or 10 ice in the back waiting, and then trigger them whenever you feel like. So even as absurd as that seems, I actually needed to do that to beat one of the levels, like 5-2 or 5-3. So it opens up a whole nother can of worms there that you can mess around with. Like emergency doomshroom provisions. Garlic is okay. I mean, again, it would work well with the gloom shroom and stuff. The umbrella leaf it's very contextual. Like, it's not good, but it's good in its effectiveness against the basketball guys. I guess, like, I've learned something new about all these plans. That just shows you how I never knew half of these mechanics existed. Like, what didn't I know? I didn't know that these worked on the basketball ones. I didn't know that. I guess I knew this pierced through stuff, but I didn't know how good it was in that. I feel like there was some other big revelation about something that was fairly basic. Oh, like if these guys get run over by the cars, probably with the Zombonis too, it stays like on the roof. So they'll run over it and take away the pot, but they won't take away the tall nut. So the tall nut just sits there on the roof. And then what else? The graves were obviously an unbelievable mechanic. Actually pretty important though. As much as I complain about it, it's very frustrating. If it wasn't for that, it wouldn't be nearly as difficult. How they not only take up space, but they can just uproot your plants. Like, you have everything planted, everything's perfect, and then randomly in the middle of a wave, they'll just dig it up and put a grave there. And it makes some of the mini games impossible because you can't use the grave buster if it's like a scripted thing, but the graves will still spawn, so they just expect you to deal with it. What other interaction was there? Somehow the regular sun seems to be as good as this. Like, where at night I would even use the sun instead of that. What else do we have? Coffee bean, umbrella. This is obviously garbage. Troll. This isn't as good as I maybe thought it should be. But then again, I only really used it at the very end just to, you know, throughout most of the hard mode, it would have probably been fine, or even the New Game Plus. This I always liked. Of course, we didn't use any special plants at all in the hard mode base, and then in the New Game Plus, I think I only used like maybe... I only used these two, and I only used them like once each, I think. So he gave me the lily pad. This is obviously an amazing one. This might actually be the best plant in the whole game, even better than the star, because it not only hits everything in every row, but it kind of circles around and swirls around, and it's like a cactus shot that pierces through stuff. So this is amazing. This is fine. This is broken. This I don't think I ever used at all. Although if he gave me the watermelon base, I could have. But think about that. That's 500 for one thing. It's way too expensive. This collects coins and the buckets and stuff. So some of this stuff got nerfed. You know, the magnet really wasn't that special in this mode at all. Even for what you would normally use it for, you might question having it, because it'll only pick up like one helmet at a time, and there's going to be like 5 football guys on the screen and all this kind of stuff, but it doesn't even work for that purpose. So what's he going to do? Take a bucket, take one of the bucket heads, or take one of the ladder guys? Like, it's just not viable. This I never really used either. I didn't fully do what I thought I was going to do, where every single plant would have a chance to shine. But sometimes it's just so difficult that there was definitely a level where he gave me this, so I thought I was going to use that. So I don't think this is that great, but it's okay. I definitely like the mechanic idea behind it. The cob cannon is obviously amazing, and it's the only activatable utility thing you have in the whole game. I guess besides the nighttime plants during the day when you have the coffee bean, there's nothing else that you have to like click on, or that you can click on to activate on demand. Aside from the lawnmower command of like tricked out that causes all 5 lawnmowers to go at once and change their cosmetic. But that only works the first time that you do it. So if we look at these, okay, these guys are what they are, just base, easy garbage. These ones weren't really any harder in theory mechanically, but they were a lot more frequent, and it even shows you that. The flag ones in the original game aren't bucket heads, but here they always are. And that's especially annoying on some of the modes, like in the one with the 2 like unsodded, where there's the soil at the top and the bottom. I had like 3 gloom shrooms ready. It's the mini game, and I'm like, oh, we have enough damage to kill the bucket head, so we don't have to worry about anything. And then the guy comes with the flag, And it's not that, oh, he's a buckethead so we can't kill him. It's the fact that he's moving faster and he has a bucket that we couldn't kill him. So that was kind of like a shock moment. But yeah, they can kind of troll you with that. And they also come in the water. You know, that's one thing that doesn't happen in the original game, I don't think. Where they can be like on the little duckies and they're swimming through the water with the bucket on their head. Coneheads were very abundant. So it creates sort of a meta with the blower. That's one thing I forgot to mention with the plant section, is the blower was a situation where if you have like 20 of these guys on the screen and you do it, it'll get rid of all their cones. So assuming the cone has as much defense health as the zombie itself, which I think it does, you basically killed 20 zombies for 200. So it's actually pretty efficient. These guys were very annoying. They not only vault, they not only jump over stuff. Oh yeah, that's an interaction that I learned from this mode too. If you put the blower when they're mid-jump, or you can even put it in front of them and make them jump over it, it'll blow them away and they'll die. But only when they're mid-jump. So if there's like 5 in one clumped up together, you can just put the blower in front and all 5 of them will die. But they have a pretty decent amount of health. And this is all according to this mode, like, you know, obviously they might have a decent amount of health compared to everything in the main game too, but decent amount of health. They move pretty fast. They jump over stuff. So these were like the early game killers that would kind of zerg you down, because it's hard to, even if you put the piranha plant to deal with it, you can't, because they'll jump over it. You have to put down like 2 different things to kill them. These guys weren't too bad, and like I said, they weren't that abundant. The main way you see them is through the flags. Like, he doesn't show the bucket here, but he does here. Yeah, these weren't too common. These were a nightmare. This gave me actual PTSD on 3-4 because it's the perfect counter play. There's 2 mechanics in this that are actually very important, as much as I complain about them. The newspapers are immune to explosions. So let's say you're on a level and you're using like the cob cannon or the doom shroom or something, right? Then you do it to kill everything else, but then this guy will go crazy. So if you don't react to him, and if there's a whole bunch of them, there'll be like 3 or 4 newspaper guys on the screen. You do the doom shroom, you're like, yeah, I killed everything. Then all 4 of these will go nuts and kill you. So it's like explosion protection, right? It punishes you for using those AoEs like cherry bomb, doom shroom, cob cannon, whatever, kernel pult, or it's cob cannon. So that is a good mechanic to make the explosions a little bit less effective. You have to kind of pick out and kill each of these, or have like a contingency plan for after once they go crazy, because you already used everything. Now you just kind of sit there and watch them run you down, because your row is not going to kill them. You could have like 5 shooters, they'll just tear right through it. They have such a high health value, they do so much damage, they're so fast, they're going to just roll you over. That is arguably the highest buff enemy type, because it takes a mechanic that is already pretty punishing, where they go kind of Super Saiyan mode, Super Zombie mode once they lose their paper, but it protects them so much from the explosions. And yeah, that is just kind of a crazy thing. I feel like, what else happened with these? Like, they were, I guess what I did was I started to put tall nuts. Like, I would do an explosion and then I would put a tall nut down in front so that you would know, because you can't really do it the opposite way because it'd be too hard to keep track of. So you put the tall nut down once they go crazy, and then you know that they're going to eat it and die to it, because it'll act as a gourd kind of at the last second. We discovered the Yeti. That was certainly a surprising thing that I never had it in the profiles, I don't think, before. So somehow we just beat the game while missing it. A rare and curious creature. Toughness didn't really feel that high, to be honest. The screen door guys also have buckets on their head, which is kind of a cruel, combination. But again, you don't see these guys too much. It wasn't that big of a deal. The fume shroom, I don't feel like would even be that effective here, because again, the bucket is what really hurts you. The whole point of the enemy type is the screen door is their defense, so they'll be weak. So if you use the fume shroom, it's like you're killing a regular zombie. What else was I gonna say with that? There was something else crazy, I think, that happened. Oh yeah, how the graves play a part. So these guys are immune to explosion, so they have explosion protection, and the graves kind of allow them to build up their own army as it's going on. So it's not just a tower defense game where they're sending enemies at you, they're actually building their own towers, quote unquote, where they could potentially spawn from them too, although they really weren't doing that. But it's just the idea that they're taking up so much space over the course of the game. So having to manage mechanics like that actually makes it kind of meta and amazing. These were about what you expect. Their health values are a lot higher. They actually don't feel that bad in retrospect, but the sheer number of them, especially on 5-4 in both the hard mode and the new game plus are absolutely out of this world. But no, I didn't really fear them that much, because you expect them to be that hard. I don't know. These ones weren't too bad, actually. And in fact, they're quite good, because if you use the Hypno Shroom on them, then the dancers come under your control too. Ducky Tube Zombie isn't a big deal, but like I said, they can have the buckets on their heads too, which is not really represented by the pictures here. But for the most part, the stuff in the water is a joke. Where's the one with the dolphin here? What's even the difference between these two? Oh, just that they can't be hit until they get to you. Not really too big of a deal. You can easily just put like a pumpkin or some defensive structure to make them come up. These things, again, you see very little. You only see it on the pool like a couple times. I guess we saw it on the final level on the roof, but I don't think they appear on the roof at all besides that. They should tell you kind of like what levels they appear on here, but that would probably take up too much space. So these aren't too bad. I guess that's something I didn't realize either, was that the piranha plants can eat the vehicles, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So the catapult and this, but it can't eat obviously the football guy or the gargantuan guy. It can even eat the ladder. Right, I'm not surprised it can eat the zombie there, or even this guy, or even this guy, but the vehicle just disintegrates too. So not too bad. These were a little bit scary actually, because of how many, would appear, because the spawn rates are up, so that means that the number of sleds that come in will go up, and then, there's like 4 for each, right? I guess it doesn't even tell you. These things weren't too bad. You can use like a tall nut, I think, to stop them, I'm pretty sure. The dolphin is also a zombie. They're saying that for PETA's sake or something. But does that really make it any better? Like, to show you're not killing a dolphin, but you're showing that a dolphin is dead and being sort of desecrated and defiled by a zombie and then killed again. I don't know. It depends how you interpret it. It's like in Luigi's Mansion where they say, he was born a ghost, Chauncey or whatever, right? The first boss, he was born a ghost, which means he was aborted or whatever. He wasn't actually born. And so that avoids having infant death in a kid's game, right? Mario and Luigi game. But on the flip side, you are showing still a dead baby. It doesn't matter how, or I guess not that he's dead. Like, after his parents died, then they had him. So therefore, he's a happy ghost family member. Jack in the Box Zombie. Like, the mental gymnastics that some of these companies have to do to get away with stuff like that is amazing. And it's the same game in which you have the flavor text that says he ate himself to death, but he still wasn't satisfied for the glutton. I thought that was one of the darkest and best flavor texts in probably Nintendo history. Flavor text Hall of Fame. These are very annoying because they can obviously blow up a big section, but for the most part, they'll often blow themselves up on their own, just randomly, before they get to you. These ones are just very contextual. They're not too bad, but you would often have to have the blowover for them. So of course, the blowover works on this, on these if they're mid-jump. And that's pretty much it. Sometimes you would get a kill on these with it just because it does a very low amount of damage. These you very seldom see, and they're not really that big of a deal. Good use of the split pea. I dealt with them some other way besides the split pea, but I forgot what it was, actually. What could it have been? I guess just like a well-timed jalapeno, or... I remember one level with a ton of them. I just completely didn't have the split pea, and I was still able to kill them. Or I would put like a pumpkin and then figure something else out. These can be very annoying because they move so fast that the damage value you do to them is often not adequate. So I guess I didn't know that blowovers worked on these. I pretty much only thought that blowovers worked on this. I didn't know they worked on the jump, and I didn't know they worked on these at all. Because really, what makes sense with this? Just the fact that he's moving so fast? It doesn't really look like he's the kind of guy who'd get blown away that easily. This was a good discovery. We turned it into it was not only a hard mode, it was not only a randomizer because of the Crazy Dave challenge, but it was also a story game, investigation game, because we had to figure out how to get the Yeti. So I'm glad I actually got that. And he just appears at some point during the nighttime. He actually appeared on the roof too, just randomly in one of the levels, which I don't know why. They say like, oh, he only comes out at night, or like he likes really dark places. I think the Tree of Wisdom says that. The bungees are really goddamn annoying because not only do they pick up your plants, but then they'll drop zombies down. I guess the umbrella thing doesn't stop them from doing that. very close and in your stuff. So these would definitely be annoying. And I guess I didn't know that the umbrella thing worked on these, so I thought they were only there for the bungees. And what else did they work on? I feel like they worked on something else. It should almost work on the imp. When they throw the imp, it'll just bounce the imp right off. If the balloon is, he's using the imp like a projectile the same way that the balloons are. That would be kind of a funny interaction. Or like the blowover could blow away the guy's newspaper, even though, you know, you can't blow it up with a doom shroom or a cherry bomb or anything else. Ladders were pretty damn annoying, but there are ways that you can use this to your advantage too. Like, for example, you put the pumpkin down and then you have them go over it, and then you have a split pea inside of the pumpkin to do a repeater. So that would be one way on 5-7 that I could have tried to metagame it. Like, okay, you only have the split pea and the cabbage pult, and you have to do these absurd amounts of damage. So you can put it on like row 8 and put the pumpkin down with the split pea, and then have like 5 ladders in a row, all with split peas protected by pumpkins. So they would every enemy would vault all of them and have to walk through 5 repeaters. That would be the only way, and that sounds perfectly normal and reasonable and something that you should have to do, right? Catapult zombies were kind of annoying, but then you realize how easily they can be countered by the umbrella. But then they occasionally trigger me by just having to drive their stupid car whenever they feel like. The way the mechanic should work, I don't know how it works in the original, maybe it works the same way. It should work like, okay, if they kill the one in the back, they start to drive. Or if nothing else is in the row and it's empty, they start to drive. That's how it does actually work. But occasionally, after a long period of time or whenever they feel like it, they just start to drive anyway, even if the row is full of stuff. Even if the one in the back is still there. I guess the reason why they do that is because the umbrella would make them completely useless then as an enemy type. But that happens even when you don't have the umbrella. Like, you know, so don't punish me for having stuff in the row that's surviving. Like, I put a tall nut in the back row, not an umbrella, so they're still beating into it. So it shouldn't really work that way. It should only move if you put the umbrella down and then you take a certain amount of time. It shouldn't do it if you don't have an umbrella at all. It's punishing you for something you're not even doing. Gargantuan ones weren't too bad because you only see but so many of them, but then again, we saw how many you see at once. Extremely high toughness. The imps were actually more annoying than the gargantuan ones because I could deal with their health values, but I had to keep accounting for what was happening in the backside. When it walks, the earth trembles, and when he moans, other zombies fall silent. He is a zombie other zombies dream they could be, but he still can't find a girlfriend. It's like the smelter demon. This isn't a demon, this is what demons fear. But yeah, again, the football one and this don't feel that bad because you kind of expect them to be that crazy. Their health value is a little bit higher, but I don't even think it's that much higher because I think 2 explosions still kill them. Like a cherry bomb plus a doom shroom would kill them. The jalapeno, actually, I discovered does a little bit less damage than the cherry bomb through this. Because like you do a squash and a cherry bomb kills it, but you do a squash and a jalapeno and it doesn't kill it. It'll be very close. Or you do a cherry bomb and a jalapeno and it almost kills it, but it doesn't. So the imps are pretty annoying, but contextual to the same thing. They almost don't deserve credit because they don't exist on their own. Dr. Zomboss rules them all. Toughness in Zombot Shell, extreme. Edgar George Zomboss achieved his doctorate in thanatology in only 2 years. Quickly mastering thanatological technology, he built the fearsome Zombot and set about establishing absolute dominance of his local subdivision. And it always makes you wonder, and he was a joke, obviously. He's the worst enemy of all. The worst zombie type, the easiest one. Not the imp, but actually Zomboss himself. But no, like, it makes you wonder what kind of world this game is taking place in, universe-wise, because, like, how far is it into the zombie invasion that they're targeting your house so much? You would have to come up with some sort of Ellie explanation, like a Children of Men, right? In this house lives your daughter, who you're protecting, and she has the cure to the zombie virus. So if she gets to the doctor after a week where the game is taking place, then they'll be able to extract a vaccine from her and you solve the cure. Because like, why else would they be attacking your house so much? And so this is like stage 1, or maybe Zomboss is already winning in this society. He's already the president and he's a dictator and he's taken over, and you're the last remaining threat to his rule. Right? It's hard to place. Like, is he just starting to take over, or is he already in control and everything's gone to shit? and you're like the one house who can stop him or whatever. Like, maybe they didn't put that much thought into the actual premise, but it's hard to know. It makes it seem like it's just an isolated incident. Like, everything is normal, and just this one house is getting attacked by an endless supply of zombies. Dave seems pretty chill about it, although he is crazy for a reason.